You're tuned in to the American Cream. The American Cream. The American Cream. A show for people seeking truth about money and how to really achieve the American dream with cream. During the next hour, you're invited to learn how credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and mindset are essential to helping you achieve the American dream. American dream. American dream. Please join your host, Hyacinth Henderson, for today's episode.
Happy Saturday, happy Saturday, happy Saturday. It is the first Saturday of 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are listening to the sound of my voice, you have purpose, passion, and power, and there is certainly a reason why you are still here with us in 2020. You're tuned in to WNMA 1210 The Man, and you're listening to the American Cream Show, where we show you, teach you, lead you, I guide you, I accompany you on your journey of redefining the American dream on your terms with CREAM. And CREAM stands for credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and mindset. So if you are new here, welcome. Thank you so much for rocking with me this fine first Saturday of 2020. I appreciate you. And if you have been listening for a couple of weeks or months or however long we've been tuning in together, thank you so much. I appreciate you as well. Very quickly, for those of you who don't know, by day, I run the Henderson Financial Group. The Henderson Financial Group is our full service financial planning and investment advisory firm. I've been doing it for the past 17 years. 2020 will be my 18th year. I run the firm with my father, Mr. Robert Henderson Jr., President and CEO. We have a full office staff, and we are passionate about what we do. We've been in business for 30 years, so we've been around the block for quite some time. I did not just roll over a Saturday morning at 4:30 in the morning and say, let me put on my clothes and come down to the radio station and jibber jabber. I didn't do that. So I have some experience here. So just wanted to give you some background history. If you want to know more about who I am, what we do, what we offer, and how we assist people at the Henderson Financial Group, visit our website, www.thehendersonfinancialgroup.com. You can also visit my website, www.hyacinthhenderson.com. I am also on your favorite social media platform, which is LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and all the others. So although at the moment I am not engaging in social media, I probably will be back on social media maybe February or March, just because I need to get some things done. But you can still find me there, and I'll be there waiting for you when I get back. All right, so today is January 4th, 2020. 2020. I've spoken with a lot of people who just absolutely cannot believe that it's 2020, that they're in the year 2020. I was actually speaking with my grandmother the other day, and she was born in 1938. My grandmother was born in 1938, and now we are in the year 2020. Can you imagine? Like when she was born in 38, even when she was 10 years old and 48 and 20 and 58, I'm sure, and she said she didn't even think about, being around in 2020. And as we were having this conversation, I thought about something. I said, you know what, Granny? Most people don't see themselves in the future. They don't have the foresight, or they don't exercise the foresight to be able to look at themselves in the future. They can't see themselves 30 years out or 40 years out. And the ironic thing about it is nobody wants to transition. And when I say transition, I mean die. This is the term that most people use. I refrain from using that term. However, since we're on the radio and you may not be clear, that's what I mean when I say transition. So here it is. Nobody wants to talk about when they're going to transition, but nobody wants to think about like year 2060, right? So think about that. And what does that mean? Why is that? Why are we that way? And here we are in 2020, and the future is here. It's now. Like she literally never thought that she would be able to see that the day that came. And here we are. And so I want you to ask yourself, what are you doing? How are you preparing for year 2040? How are you preparing for year 2030? Do you see yourselves there? because you certainly don't see yourselves transitioning. Like nobody wants to talk about that because you don't want to buy life insurance because you're going to live forever. And I get it. If you're going to live forever and you don't want to buy life insurance, then let us at least talk about the future. Like, let us at least acknowledge that. Let us at least plan for the future, because we know that 2030 is coming, 2040, 2050 is coming. And since you don't want to transition, you got to make some plans for that. And where am I going with this? You got to plan for your money. This is a financial educational radio show. So everything that I speak about, talks about, is always going to tie back into your finances, your abundance, your prosperity. It's always going to lead back into that. So when we think about the fact that it's actually 2020, and I'm saying to you that most people don't think 10 years out, don't think 5 years out. Heck, most people don't think 2 weeks out. And the people who don't think 2 weeks out, those are the people who get their paycheck and spend all of their paycheck in a week. And they're like, dang, I spent all my money and now I have to wait until payday again. So we got to think about that. That's why I'm opening up the first Saturday of 2020. I'm opening it up with these thoughts because it's important. Your livelihood, your prosperity, your life is counting on the conversation that we're having today. And I am very, very, very much so aware of that. So if you're listening to me, I got news for you. You're supposed to be here. There's no mistake. If you just happened upon the dial, or maybe you're listening to the show before me and you're like, wait a minute, here's a woman on 1210 The Man. Let me hear what she has to say. Thanks for staying. Pull up a chair. This message is for you. Here's a reason why you're here, and I know that. So let's get into it. If you've listened to the show before, you've heard the commercial where Mr. Henderson says, 95% of your problems can be solved by writing a check. Only 5% can't. And if you follow me on social media, I've said the same exact thing. And I want to go into that a little bit today. Not a little bit, but a lot of it. I want to really break that down, because sometimes we get into the habit of just doing things out of doing it and not really realizing why we're doing them or why we're listening to it. For instance, this morning was the first time that I ever drove to the radio station without putting the address in my GPS. I think I've been coming here for maybe 3 months now. And every single Saturday, I would get up and leave my home and put the address in my GPS. I'd have it. And then today I was just like, Hyacinth, you don't need the GPS, girl. You got this. And I did. I got it. And actually, my engineer said, wow, you're here early this morning. And I thought, you know what? I made it without my GPS, and I made it early without my GPS. And I'm just sharing that because there are certain things that we just do without even realizing while we're doing them, such as putting an address in your GPS of a location that you go to every week. So I want to move you from listening to that quote, 95% of your problems can be solved by writing a check, the only 5% can't. I want to move you from just hearing that to actually owning it, believing it, understanding it, and then putting it into action so that you can actually have a new 2020, so that 2020 can actually be one of your best years yet. So let's break this down. So when we talk about 95% of your problems can be solved by writing a check, the only 5% can't. First, let's talk about the 5%. We're going to spend some time talking about the 5% of your problems or issues that cannot be solved by writing a check. I'm going to break that thing down for you in a way that is going to set your 2020 on fire. It's going to change your perspective so that you can have the best 2020 yet. So the 5%, let's call those master teachers. So whatever the 5% of the problems that you're thinking like, dang, I can't write a check to solve this problem, we're going to call that a master teacher. I'm not calling the person or the people or the individuals who are involved in this air quote problem. I'm calling the lesson the master teacher. Okay. So the 5% that you cannot just say, you know what, here's my checkbook. Those are your master teachers. And when you think about a master teachers, before you can master anything, you have to keep doing it. You got to get down into it. You have to really dissect it. If you want to be a master at anything, if you want to get a master lesson from a master teacher, you can't just understand it from a surface level. You have to understand it from the root. You have to get to the root and the foundation of whatever the issue or the problem is teaching you. A great example of that is heartbreak or breakup. And I'm going to use this as an example, and you plug in whatever 5% of your problem that you feel like you can't solve without writing a check. They're all different, but most people have dealt with either heartbreak or the ending of a relationship or whatever the case may be. And so I'm going to use that as an example because I want you to be able to relate to what I'm saying so that you can have that shift in your perspective. So when I tell you that things are never good or bad, they just are, I want you to be able to connect the dots. So think about heartbreak. I remember a couple of years ago when I got divorced. And the first thing when people would ask me about my ex-husband or my husband, and I would say I'm divorced, the first response that people would say would be, oh my God, I'm sorry to hear that. And I literally had to hold up my hand and say, hey, whoa, I'm good. Like, no, don't be sorry to hear that. We're good. We're still great friends, but we needed to do this. And so the looks on people's faces when I would say, hey, don't be sorry to hear that, and don't give me a man, and somebody's gonna send you a man, don't send that my way. It was just priceless because people are used to feeling like when the relationship has an end that it is a bad situation. And I want to say this clearly. Things are never good or bad until you give them a title. Things just are. So going back to the 5% of your problems, and I'm air quoting problems that cannot be solved by writing a check, being master teachers or lessons, the first thing that I want you to do is to consider that things are neither good or bad. They just are. And you're like, dang, Hyacinth, what do you mean they just are? So for thinking about a heartbreak or thinking about a breakup, let me not use the term heartbreak, thinking about the end of a relationship or the end of a courtship or whatever you call it. Generally, there's one person who says, hey, this is the end. And that person doesn't view it as bad. And then there's another person who says, this is horrible. That person's perspective is that it is bad. So if you think about it, it's one situation. Imagine that the relationship is one linear line. And on one end of the line, there's someone who's upset about it or viewing it as bad. And on the other end of the line, there is someone who's viewing it as good. What would it take for either party to move to the opposite end of the line? Now we're talking about for those people who are into higher consciousness, we are talking about the law of polarity. If you're not and you want to look into it, that's a term that you want to Google. The law of polarity, Polarity, polarity. So the ending of a relationship, one end bad, the other end good. If they're just on one line, what would it take for you to move from the side of, oh my gosh, woe is me, this is such a terrible thing, that I'm just moving on this straight line to the opposite end, that this is now, it's not so bad? What does it take? It takes a shift in perspective. What do you mean by a shift in perspective? Well, really, when you think about it, because this is a master teacher, why did the relationship end? Should the relationship have begun in the first place? Were there red flags that we were ignoring? Like, did you know that this was not a good fit in the beginning, but because you wanted to post ussies on Instagram and Facebook, you went with it anyway? Like, did you know that this was not a great relationship in the beginning, but you wanted a new bag, so you kept dating him because you thought that you had everything under control? So when you start to dissect some things and you really remove the ego, right, from the situation, and you look at it and say, you know what, this 5% is a master teacher. What is this teaching me? What am I to learn from this? Then you can actually peel back the layers and have an honest conversation with yourself and say, oh, you know what, maybe the person wasn't bad. Maybe there weren't red flags in the beginning at all. Maybe we were on the same page, but I grew. That person didn't. Maybe our views changed, our values changed. Maybe, things happen. Things happen that cause other people to change, and things happen that cause us to change. And so when that happens, one of the worst things that you can do is to stay there and beg someone or a position or a situation to remain the same. Because as you're begging for familiarity, as you're begging for your situation to remain the same, you are cheating your future. Let me say that again. As you are begging and pleading and saying, oh my gosh, I want to stay here. I don't want to break up. I don't want a new job. I don't want to leave this place. Whatever the case is, you're cheating your future. You are saying whatever is in front of me right now is as good as it's going to get. I don't believe that there is a man or woman after you who is going to be better than you. And when you have that perspective, then you stay on that linear line of the side that says this is bad. But when you really dig down to it and you're like, wait a minute, let me peel back these layers. Let me figure out, was it a good fit? What are the lessons for me? Was it a lesson to be true to myself? Was a lesson to honor my core values? Like you knew that you were looking for you had certain requirements in a partner, and this person didn't meet those requirements, but you wavered and you bent anyway. And so since you wavered and you bent all the way back, it was only a matter of time before that pressure comes off and that bending back was going to launch forward. Right? So you get to think about these things. And I'm using, again, this show is not about relationships, but I'm using this term because most people who are listening to my voice have been in a relationship and have experienced a relationship that has ended. And at that point, there was no check that you could have written to solve that problem, going back to the 5% that can't. So if it's a part of the 5% that can, and you can't write a check to solve the problem, then what you can do is change your perspective. What you can do is think about, what is this lesson teaching me? And I'm only using the example of relationships, but I want you to apply this to other things in your life. As you start out this year of 2020, think about the things that are going on that you know need to change, the things that you deem as problems, and say, what do I need to do to move my little pretty little self or handsome study self from the line of, oh my God, this is bad, from the point on that line to, wow, this is good. Because I guarantee you this. It's not a lot of things that I can guarantee, especially being licensed, because then they want to take my licenses. But I can guarantee you that as soon as you start to walk, you will move from bad to, wow, this ain't so bad anymore. Oh, wow, this is okay. I'm surviving. Or, wow, this is actually good. Oh my God, this is great. This is awesome. And when you do that, I want you to master that lesson. How do you master that lesson? The next time that you find yourself in a situation or you find yourself presented with the lesson that it may look bad on the surface, figure out, hey, what is this trying to teach me? What do I need to do? What steps do I need to take? Because Hyacinth guaranteed me that if I take some steps, I'm going to move from one spot on the line to the next. I'm going to move from bad to good. What steps do I need to take to be able to change my perspective? Things are never good or bad until we tell them what they are. We title them. And we title them based on our emotions. That's why they tell you, listen, when you go through a breakup and they're like, don't spend time moping around at home, get out and have fun. It's not so that you get out and have fun and get drunk and like drunk text your ex or drunk dial your ex. It's so that you get out of that energetic space of moping. When they tell you to get out and go out and do things and take up a hobby and go biking and get back to all the things you used to do before you got into that relationship, what the root of that is for you to move from the position, move from the spot on the line where you're sitting over here in Mopeville, and you actually take the steps to do other things, and you realize, you know what, it was cloudy over here, but when I walked out of my door, now I see the sun shining. And this is a true story. Like literally in my office, we have it very cold in there. And in my office, I have the lights dim. Like I literally take one of the light bulbs out and I have my salt lamp going and everything. And it's just like a real Zen vibe in there. I got a meditation pillow and everything, right? But sometimes I'm in there all day long. And on the rare occasions that I go out, like yesterday, I had to run to FedEx during the middle of the day. And I went out and I was like, dang, it's sunny out here. Like the sun is shining, the birds are chirping. But when I go back in my office, it's like real dim and mellow and zen-like. And sometimes that's all it takes is for you to get out so that you can change your perspective. So that's what I want you to think about when we say the 5% of the problems that cannot be solved by writing a check. Those are your master teachers. Dig deep. Dig deep so that in 2020, you weren't focused on, dang, these 5% are issues that I just have and there is no way for me to solve them. There is. But those problems are going to require you to dig a little bit deeper. Those problems are the real issues. Those are the ones that you can't write a check for. But guess what? You can't write a check for it, but the lessons are actually priceless. Because once you get the lessons of those 5% master teachers, then you're like, oh my gosh, your life is literally going to change. So that's your first tidbit for 2020. At 6:20, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back from commercial break, we're going to talk about the 95% of your problems that can be solved by writing a check. You're listening to Hyacinth Henderson, the American Cream Show on WNMA 1210, The Man. Be right back.
You know, Linda, people have worked very hard all their entire lives to save what they thought was enough for retirement.
Robert, what is enough? Especially in today's volatile stock market, so many people are concerned that they just may not have enough to retire. So what can they do?
You know, all it really takes is sitting down with someone at the Henderson Financial Group to first educate you and then discuss your personal goals and objectives and working out a plan to help you succeed.
I agree. I'm Linda V. Harris, Vice President of the Henderson Financial Group and a retirement planning specialist.
And I'm Robert Henderson Jr., Certified Financial Planner, the President of the Henderson Financial Group.
What I love about us at the Henderson Financial Group, Robert, is we've helped so many people just like you, just like our listening audience, prepare for a successful and prosperous retirement.
Don't wait. Call our office today at 305-825-1444 and you'll be glad you did. Hey y'all, did you know that women reaching the age of 65 are expected to live 2.3 years longer than men?
Wow, don't I know it? My friends and I talk about it quite often. And we're also less likely than men to have additional sources of income to help supplement our retirement income beyond our retirement years, Robert.
On top of that, Linda, Social Security might not be enough to cover your retirement needs or those of a loved one after you're gone.
That's why it's so important, and we keep saying it, just to give the Henderson Financial Group a call. You have to learn about ways to help supplement that Social Security income with additional monthly income.
We can tell you how to do that. I'm Robert Henderson, Certified Financial Planner, President of the Henderson Financial Group.
And I'm Linda V. Harris, Vice President of the Henderson Financial Group.
Call us today at 305-825-1444 and let us help you get started right away.
Welcome back. You're listening to WNMA 1210, The Man. This is the American Cream Show. I'm your host, Hyacinth Henderson. And around here on the American Cream Show, I show you, guide you, lead you, teach you, journey with you ways on how to redefine the American dream on your terms with Cream. And credit, and Cream stands for credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and mindset. Today we're talking about, I guess we can say this is a mindset show. It's a mindset and money show, because if your mind ain't set, your money can't be set, right? So we started off the first segment of today's show talking about the 95% of your problems can be solved by writing a check and only 5% can't. And I gave you a jewel. Like if you missed that, you're going to have to go on YouTube and catch that. That 5%, that 5% of your master teacher lessons, those are the things that, you know what, you can't take the easy way out to write a check. But once you master these lessons, the results are going to be priceless. And it starts with a shift in your perspective and realizing that things just are. They are neither good nor bad. They're here to teach you. They just are. So I will put this up on the YouTube. I know that I have had a hiatus from YouTube. We were thinking about and considering and toying with the idea of not putting all of my shows on YouTube, not putting the full hour on YouTube, but actually just teasers. However, we are reformatting the American Cream radio show. So for now, all the shows will go up on YouTube. So yesterday I just submitted them to my YouTube guru, Adrian. Shout out to Adrian. I found him on Fiverr and he's very patient with me. I appreciate him. I sent him 5 shows. He's going to get the shows up. He said within a week, but I know Adrian, he usually moves pretty quickly. So by Monday, I would say check my YouTube channel. There are going to be 2 shows, previous shows up. And one of those shows is the budgeting show. You need to listen to that show, especially as you start out your 2020. That's a show that you need to listen to. So if you aren't subscribed to my YouTube, subscribe. There's a B in there, Hyacinth. Yes. So if you aren't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, please go to youtube.com, type in Hyacinth Henderson, hit the subscribe button. And after you hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell. So when you hit the bell in the corner, you will be notified every time a new show or new YouTube show, I guess, is uploaded. So YouTube content is uploaded to my channel. So subscribe and then hit the bell. And for those of you who are already subscribed, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Hit the bell. Because when you hit the bell, they will email you or send you a notification on your desktop or laptop to say, hey, Hyacinth Henderson just posted some new content. So there are 5 videos on their way there. So yeah, if you didn't catch the first half, you're going to catch it on YouTube probably in a few weeks. But he has some new shows that he's putting up. So now let's talk about the 95% that can actually be solved by writing a check. I mean, this is a huge deal. Like if you think about all your problems, the problems that you believe that you have, and you get up, the problems that keep you snoozing the alarm in the morning, the problems that make you wake up angry. Like, have you ever really thought about that and asked yourself, why do I rise in the morning? And if you ever communicate with me first thing in the morning or at the start of the day, I'll say grand rise, like, and I'll capitalize grand, or I capitalize rising, grand. Like your rising should be grand. So if you're one of those people who roll over and like, oh my God, it's another day, I gotta get out of bed, ask yourself, do you have some money? Because 95% of your problems can be solved by writing a check. And generally, if you're rolling out of bed angry, if you don't want to get up, if you like, don't talk to me, I don't want to talk to nobody in the morning, leave me alone, blah, 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 you probably got some problems on your head. And we understand that you have those problems on your head. So now you're angry, but you shouldn't. You should be a grand rising every morning. Every day that the sun rises is a grand rising. And so we want to talk about the 95% of the problems that can be solved by writing a check. That's a big deal. That can change your life. 95%. Oh, here's a check. Don't worry about that. Check, a Zelle. People are asking me to take Zelle. I don't take no Zelle. Zelle, Cash App, whatever it is, here is some money. So now here's the first question. First, when you get into the 95% of the problems that can be solved by writing a check, ask yourself, do you really so you know that you need money. You need money. I say that all the time. You need money. Do I think money is worth anything? No, it's the experiences and the things that you actually buy with the money that are worth something. But for now, we use money to access those things. So you gotta get you some money. You need money. Before we go further, I want you to ask yourself, look at your financial position, because I'm on the radio right now. It's just me and my engineer in here. I don't know what your bank account looks like or your savings or your investment. I don't know what your numbers look. But you ask yourself, and you think about your annual salary, you think about your expenses, you think about the money that you're bringing in if you're self-employed. Because let me tell y'all, my self-employed people, y'all know you can bring in some money. But you can bring in some money and you actually spend out some money. We'll get into that show another day, because self-employed people, I'm going to tell you, especially nowadays with my entrepreneurs, and we act like entrepreneurship is such this grandiose, thing. I'm an entrepreneur. No, well, what does that mean? Because most times I find that because we're these entrepreneurs and we control our own money and we make as much money as we want, we also spend more money than we have coming in. But we'll talk about that another day. So look at your situation, your paychecks, your Zelle accounts, your pay stubs, and say, you know what, self, look in the mirror. Self, do I really have a money problem or do I have a spending problem? Let's start there. Because 95% of your problems can be solved by writing a check. And so we got to get to the money because you need it. But first, self to self, like look in the mirror. I'm talking to the man in the mirror. Listen, do you have a money problem or do you have a spending problem? What's the difference? A money problem is you ain't got no money. A spending problem is you have money, but you spend it. And so it's not the money that's the problem. It's your spending habits that's the problem, right? So that's the first assessment of 2020 that you want to make. What am I spending my money on? What am I spending my money on? And that's going to lead me to the next point in today's show. You've heard me say it once, you've heard me say it 1,000 times. Your money should be working for you. And so I understand that there are things that you know, things that you don't know, and things that you don't even know that you don't even know. There are three things. Things that you know, you don't know, and those that you don't know that you don't know. So maybe you didn't know that your money was supposed to be working for you. Maybe you didn't know that. So here it is. I'm going to tell you that today. You should have 3 buckets in your brain at all times. Those 3 buckets should be bills, savings, and investments. So let's talk about the bills. If you want to talk about the bills, let's go back to the budgeting show that's going to be posted on the YouTube. Look at your bills. Look at your expenses. Do you have expenses and bills that really need to be cut? The other day I said to my daughter, I said, I need to call the cable company and get rid of this cable. And she said, Mommy, you really do, because nobody watches cable. And I started thinking about that. I got angry for a little bit. I'm like, dang, Hyacinth, you tripping. I've had cable since let me go back. I didn't even have a television. And I had one TV in my house before I got married. And I got married in 2009. So before then, I only had one TV in my house and I didn't have cable. And so I just had cable because my ex-husband, and then we got more TVs and cable and things like that. Shout out to my ex-husband. We're still great friends. I got his back. You can't try him, only I can try him. So let me just be clear there. I'm not like one of those angry divorce people. Nope, we're still very good friends. You can't try him, only I can try him. But we got TVs, we got cable and things like that. And so when we got divorced a couple years ago, I think we got divorced or we separated. This has been like at least 5 years now. I've just had cable. And my kids, there are no TVs. They don't have TVs in their rooms. And there's a TV in my room, but I only watch that TV on y'all holidays. So on Thanksgiving, I'm watching the Addams Family Values, and that's not even on cable. That's on Amazon Prime or something like that. So the point is, I look back and I was like, nobody watches cable. Because you can't cut on the TV in my house every day. You just can't do that unless I throw the whole TV away. So since we can't do that, then when we actually do watch TV, it's, what are we watching as a family? Or my son may want to watch a show on Netflix or something like that. But the point is that cable expense has to go. And they're charging me over $100 a month for something that I don't use. So that's a spending problem. That's a spending leak. If I have that spending leak, I know you have some spending leaks. I know you have some spending leaks. So before we can talk about the 95% of your problems that can be solved by writing a check, we got to make an assessment of what we're doing with the resources and the money that we have. What can you cut? What do you need to cut? Netflix is about to go too, because they took off my shows. Like Coco, they took Coco off. Kyla's like, Mom, they have Disney Plus now. That's a Disney movie. Okay, well, Netflix, I don't really need to pay you $14.99 a month anymore. What do you need to cut? What are your spending habits? Are you eating out every single day for lunch? What are you doing? Do you have a spending problem? Are you one of those people where you're catching all the sales? Because as the seasons change, they're going to start saying, hey, 50% off, 60% off, 70% off. It's the time. You just went from spending all your money for the holidays to now you got the after Christmas sales. You got the New Year sales. You're going to have the MLK sales. Then you're going to have the Valentine sales. Then you're going to have the spring sales. They just selling, and you got a spending problem. So when you talk to yourself in the mirror, ask yourself, do I have a money problem or do I have a spending problem? And after you go through and you look and you cut your bills down, then you can say, okay, boom, I just gave myself a raise. Then let's think about your savings. Savings is another bucket that I've said before. Let's go back, run the playback. You got to have 6 months of living expenses saved, period. If you don't have 6 months of living expenses saved, when you do your vision board, as you're going to these vision board parties that everybody is going to be charging you to go to this first quarter, as you go there, please make sure you put on your vision board 6 months of living expenses. You need put that real big on your vision board because you need that. You have absolutely no business spending, catching a sale, investing if you don't have 6 months of living expenses saved. If you live in Florida, you definitely need it because, when the hurricanes come, you got to be able to get out of town. You can't be in line on the turnpike with back bumper to bumper traffic. Just buy a plane ticket and go. You need to be able to hurricane proof your house. There are some things that you need to be able to do, and you can't do that if you don't have 6 months of living expenses. If there is an emergency that comes, You need to be able to have your emergency funds set aside. So as we start out this 2020 year with our 2020 crystal clear vision, we're asking ourselves, do I have a money problem or do I have a spending problem? Get that savings in check. If you don't, and listen, I started this show saying that my grandmother, who was born in 1938, she could not imagine the day. She couldn't picture the day that 2020 would come. And here it is. And I find that most people are this way with their money. So when I talk about your 6 months of living expenses, you're probably like, what are you talking about, Hyacinth? 6 months? Oh, dang, that's 6 months time. That's a lot of money. Listen, 2020 is here. I was born in 1981. I wasn't thinking about 2020 when I was born. When I graduated in 1999, I wasn't thinking about 2020. So it's coming. You're going to find yourself in a position where you're going to need these 6 months of living expenses. Just do it. How do you just do it? Figure out what your monthly living expenses are, divide it by 4, break it down into a weekly goal. I talked about that on last week's show. I may do a show dedicated to that maybe next week so that I can really get into it. But that's what we need to do. 6 months of living expenses. Then after you got your 6 months of living expenses down packed, hook, crook, or steal, that's what you're doing. You're eating noodles, ramen. You know, ramen noodles is 5 packs for $1.25. Like, you do what you got to do. As I was walking up the stairs to the radio station this morning, I was like, ooh, girl, you just been eating all the food. Now you just got to have water and spinach for 3 weeks. Just water, spinach, and salmon. That's it. Water, spinach, salmon, and sweet potato. Like water, spinach, salmon, water, spinach, sweet potato. You may have to do that. You're going to have to do that so that you can get your 6 months of living expenses done. You're going to have to cut back in other areas so that you can get to where you need to be. And then you can move into investments. And so when you move into investments, this is where you really get to be able to write a check freely. Because when I say that 95% of your problems can be solved by writing a check, I don't want you to be under the false impression or assumption that the way that you're going to be able to write checks, and more checks is by work, and more work. No, your money has to work for you. Because if you feel like you're just going to be able to continue to work and write all these mass amounts of checks, you're going to work yourself into the ground. And then where's your quality of life going? Going to end up in a dead end. That brings us to our next column, investments. What is an investment? An investment is when you have money working for you, money making more money for you. That's it. And forget all the other definitions. If you've heard me say it before, I'm going to say it to you again. It's not an asset if it doesn't produce income. And since we're up and we're starting a new year off with a bang, let me tell you again, your primary residence is not an asset. I don't care what you say. Your primary residence is not an asset. It's not. It's a liability. So when we think about investments, we think about, I want to be able to write checks to solve 95% of my problems so that when I get up in the morning, I'm not getting up angry, like I'm springing out of bed saying, woohoo, let's go. Like I'm meditating, I'm drinking my warm lemon key lime water and I'm ready. I'm good to go. You got to have your money working for you. That's where your investments come in. And that is really what money is about. Money is about two things. Money is about making more money for you, and money is about buying you time. And when I say money is about buying you time, when it buys you time so that you can free up your time to do things, to do what? Make more money. Think about it that way. You didn't know that. You didn't know that. They just told you, hey, you're here, go get you a job, make you some money, pay your bills, and repeat. Like, just do that every day for 80 years and then go to heaven and they're going to reward you with like angels and stuff. That's what you were told. And I know that you didn't know that there's a better way. And the better way is having your money work for you. Well, how do you do that? Remember the first 2 steps. You got to cut those expenses. That's the bills category. And I'm not saying like, don't have a good quality of life, but you need to cut certain expenses to redirect your money so that it can be working for you. And you definitely need to cut your expenses and eat ramen noodles 5 for $1.25. Okay, maybe you shouldn't eat ramen noodles. I shouldn't advocate that. But you probably should get a bag of spinach and carrots and things like that. Get some produce so that you can build up your savings account. That's the next step, your 6 months of living expenses by any means necessary. Legal means, right? I'm not telling you to go out there and do jail things because you're going to end up in jail. And then you get to the point that your investments, your money is going to be working for you. Your money has to make money for you. There is no other way to run this money game. It has to make money for you. And then you got to free up time. You have to free up your time by paying people to do the things that need to be done so that you can make more money. What does that look like? Let me give you another real world example. I am moving. Since I'm moving, I've told my cleaning lady, listen, I love you. I need you. There are boxes everywhere. I'm packing, I'm purging. I got a lot of stuff. So I don't really need you. I had to mop my floor on New Year's Day. I mopped my floor on New Year's Day and I was like, whoa, I had mopped my floor in so long. And I know that sounds bad, but my back was hurting as I was mopping my floor. And I'm like, dang, why is my back hurting? Hyacinth, you haven't mopped the floor because you would pay someone to do this. And while I'm paying her to do this, I'm not twiddling my thumbs and scrolling Instagram. What the beauty is, as I'm paying someone to clean my house, I'm writing content. I'm writing books. I'm working on financial plans. So when you think about money as a means to buy you more time, that's what the rich and the wealthy do. We use money to make more money for us, and we use money to buy us more time. I buy time by paying her hourly rate, which is less than my hourly rate. You see how that works? It's easy for me to pay her to mop my floor and my back don't hurt. And I can make more. I can make the money in the time that she is mopping and cleaning my house. I am making the money to pay her, and I'm making money for other things. And I'm servicing people. You see how that works? So now let's go back to your budget. And let's go back, let's think about that one. Because when I tell you to cut your expenses, I am not telling you, unless now if you don't have 6 months of living expenses saved, you need to be mopping your own floor. Like really, literally, it's grind time. If you don't have your 6 months of living expenses saved, you don't need Alexa, you don't need Netflix, you don't need none of that. You're supposed to be eating water and spinach like me for the next 3 weeks because I've been eating all the donuts or cookies. So if you don't have that, then so it's steps. Remember, I talked to you about savings. I talked to you about your bills. I talked to you about your savings and then investments. You have to go in order. What expenses are you cutting? What bills are you cutting so that you can then add to your savings? And then after you add to your savings and you have 6 months of living expenses saved, then you can move into the investment phase. But if you're out of order where you got all this stuff of convenience, you got this gadget and you have this person cleaning and this car wash, man, you're supposed to be washing your own car if you don't have 6 months of living expenses saved. Let's talk about it. Get out there, get you some water, pour that Dawn dishwashing liquid in that bucket, make those bubbles, and scrub those tires. I mean, maybe not Dawn dishwashing liquid, but you know the car wash stuff. The point is, you aren't there yet until you have 6 months of living expenses saved. This is a wake-up call. It's 2020. It's 2020. It's the first Saturday. I couldn't come in here on the first Saturday and just make it sound fly to you. I had to give it real to you, right? I'm not going to lie to you and make it sound fly to you. That rhymed. I used to be a rapper in my last life. I'm going to give it to you real. Because let me tell you something. I know you can't see 2023 right now. I know you can't see 2025 right now, but it's coming. And when it comes, and when we say, oh my gosh, 2020 was a good year, 2019, 2018, 2015, the economy has been doing great. When is it time for the economy to shift? I want y'all to run the tapes back. Pull up the tapes and remember January 4th, 2020, Hyacinth said you couldn't see 2025 coming, but it's here. And what position are you in? Because now the economy has shifted. I don't know. It may be 2022. I don't know when it is, but you got to be ready to produce an opportunity that is going to change your life. And so everything, run this tape back. Run this. This is a YouTube. This YouTube, I feel like is going to go platinum. I feel like this is one of those ones that you got to share with your people. Send it to everybody. Send it because it's some good stuff. If you want to be amongst the people who can write a check to solve 95% of their problems, you got to have you some money. And what you're doing now is going to require you to change. And I don't care if you make $100,000 a year right now. If you make $100,000 a year right now and you think that you're balling, there's somebody who makes $300,000 a year, somebody who makes $3 million a year. And so these principles still apply. If you making $100,000 a year right now, you still need to go through your bills, cut your expenses like me, cut the cable lady. Netflix is still on the shopping board because Coco is gone and The Godfather is gone. Something else I tried to look up. I never saw Get Out. I wanted to look up Get Out. That's gone. So Netflix, you're on thin ice, buddy. Cut those expenses. Cut those bills down. When you cut the bills down, get your 6 months of living expenses up. Last year, this time, the government was shut down. All my government employees, what were you doing when the government shut down? How did that look? Because how quickly we forget. How did that look? You of all people know that you need 6 months of living expenses. How does that look? How did that look for you? After you do that, then let's get into your investments, because your money is supposed to be making money for you. So as you look at all your expenses and you say, well, am I spending stuff? Am I directing my money towards things that are making money for me? Am I directing money towards things that are freeing up my time so that I can make more money? Or am I directing my money towards a dead end? What's a dead end? Things that you don't need. I had to tell myself, like all the after Christmas sales and the clothes and Hyacinth, you don't need no more dresses. Girl, you got enough. You literally have enough. And this is how I talk to myself, like, yeah, no, we had only $20. Good price, but I don't need it. Like, where are you directing your money, your expenses? Are you directing it? You should be directing your money to investments that make more money for you and to things that free up your time. So when you see me with the cleaning lady, yes, I have a cleaning lady because I can now make 3-4 times the amount of money that I'm paying her within that hour. That's what the wealthy people do. This is a mindset shift about money. This is a mindset shift. I remember a couple years ago, a friend of mine who does shopping for people, again, she shops for me. Do you know why? Because I cannot be during the day leaving my office going shopping. That's her job. She allows me to free up my time to do what I need to do. And she convinced me to buy a sweater that was like $98. And I was like, girl, I cannot be buying a $98 sweater. And when she did the math to me, she was a smart girl. Zakia, shout out to Zakia. Smart lady. She did the math on the quality of the sweater and how many years I would have the sweater as opposed to buying a $20 sweater. And she's right. I still have that sweater and it's still one of my favorite sweaters. So you got to start looking at money in that way. Real estate. I talk to you about real estate all the time. I talk to you about that because houses is something that everybody can relate to. We all see real estate when we're driving down the street. We live in a piece of real estate. So when I talk to you about looking at real estate as a means to grow your money and make your money work for you, it's because it's something that you can relate to. But real estate may not be your thing. Whatever your thing is, it should be something that is making money for you. Your investments is the only way that you're going to be able to freely write checks to solve 95% of your problems. You'll never be able to work enough. You'll never be able to exchange enough time for enough dollars to be able to write the amount of checks that you want. You will work yourself into the ground. You will not have a quality of life. If you want to be able to freely write checks, you have to have your money working for you. So you got to reevaluate your budget. What money can you direct towards things that will make your life easier? What money can you direct towards investments that will make money for you? We should be getting excited about those direct deposits. We should be getting excited about those PayPal receipts. We should be getting excited about those Cash App receipts. That's what we should be getting excited about. We should not be getting excited about going to buy material things and posting them on the internet for people to see, right? That's not what we should be getting excited about. Let's leave that in 2020. Let's not do that anymore. Let me tell you why we don't want to do that. Let me tell you why. When you buy your clothes and shoes and you put them on the internet for other people to see, like, look at my shoes, look at my clothes, and you look at me, I understand that you're not doing it for yourself, but you're doing it for others. Because if you were doing it for yourself, you would never put your focus on that on the internet. But you're doing it for others and you've lost focus. The moment you do the look at me post on social media, you're exposing yourself as someone who needs external validation from people behind a screen. Let's talk about it. It's 2020. It's time to get real. The moment you do that, you have shown your true colors and you said, dang, I need y'all to validate me. Because if it was something for you, Listen, you wouldn't be wanting everybody to see it. It's yours. You keep it close. I tell people all the time, keep it close. Keep it close to you because it's working for you. It's making more money for you, and you don't need everybody in your game room. You are listening to, for those of you who are just joining, it's been a super, super Saturday, January 4th, 2020. You're listening to Hyacinth Henderson, the American Cream radio show. We are on WNMA 1210, the man right now. And I'm not a man, I am the woke man. I feel good though. It feels good. I drove here today without my GPS. I was in my seat early. I have my sweatshirt on and it's hot. That's the only thing. I got to talk to my engineer. I'm doing the 8 o'clock show. By the way, shout out to my dad. He is out of town at Cal College. He's at a financial planning conference, weekend conference. He went up Thursday. So he's there getting all the information, all the knowledge. And he said, hey, daughter, why don't you do the radio show Saturday? So I'll be here Saturday. It is Saturday. Bingo, trying to multitask. I'll be here at 8 o'clock. So we'll have Keone up at 7 and I'll be back at 8. And you know what I'm going to do? One point that I didn't talk about today about the 95%. So I talked about the 95% of your problems being solved by writing a check, you needing some money. And so we started talking about saying, well, most of you have money, but you got a spending problem. And so what about those of you who are saying, Hyacinth, you know what? I don't have enough money. Well, you know why you don't have enough money? Because you're scared. If your problem is not a spending problem, your problem is fear. You're scared. And we only have 9 minutes left. So guess what the 8 o'clock show is going to be about? Fear. Fear in your finances and how it's holding you back and how we're going to release fear for 2020. That's what we're going to talk about at 8 o'clock. See how that just came? Give me a finger snap, 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 snap. Close your eyes, sway, sway. That's what we're going to talk about. So if you're not amongst the people who have a spending problem, if you're legitimately saying, Hyacinth, dang, I know what you're saying, but girl, I don't spend no money. I got my 6 months. I'm trying to get my 6 months of savings, but I need some help. And you scared. And that's what's keeping you broke. You're scared, and we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about fear at 8 o'clock right here on WNMA 1210 The Man. You've been listening to Hyacinth Henderson, the American Cream. Holla at me. Call me. I'm not on social. Well, I'm on social media, but I'm taking a social media break. I generally do that in January. I also generally have a dry January. I didn't know that was a thing until 4 minutes before the radio show this morning, 4 minutes before 6 o'clock, I put on the headphones and the show before me was talking about dry January. And I was like, oh my God, there are the people who don't drink in January? I didn't know that was a thing. So I Googled it and apparently it is a thing. And so you know what that tells me? My inner knowing told me, Hyacinth in January, and I've been doing it for a few years, just don't drink. Don't drink, go dry, go dark. I call it a dark January. I don't drink. I'm not on social media. I kind of just lay low. I'm in the trap, in the lab, just kind of doing some things to get ready for what's to come. And I'm sharing that my inner being shared that with me because just as my inner being is speaking to me, yours is speaking to you too. There's a reason why you're listening to the sound of my voice. When I say that, I don't just say it because it sounds cliche and somebody say, hey, Hyacinth, say that because it'll sound good. I say it because I mean it. There's a reason that you're listening to the sound of my voice today, and everything that I have said today has touched you. It's something that you knew, something that you hand clapping, you're nodding your head. Y'all gonna email me or DM me. If I don't respond to your DM, it's because I'm not getting back into social media until February or March. Depends on how long this goes. But the point is, you all reach out to me and you say, you know what, you're right. I don't know you, but I know that there's an inner knowing and an inner being that says, say this, I say it, and you receive it. So your inner being and your inner knowing has been telling you some of the things that I've shared with you today. They've been telling you that you need to be a better steward of your finances. Your inner being has been screaming at you to stop posting so much on social media. Your inner being has been screaming at you to get your financial house in order to save more money, to work on your investments, to set a better example for your children and your financial future. Your inner being has been saying, girl, it's 2020 or guy, it's 2020 already. Let's prepare for 2030. It's been saying that. Listen to it. Listen to it. Today, you just got your affirmation and your confirmation. I appreciate you every time you listen to me, every video you share, every subscribe, every like. I appreciate it. I sincerely do. And not really because it's for me, but because that means that I am touching you. And it's one of the reasons why I read all my messages. I read them because you remind me that you're listening. You remind me that you need this information. So thank you. On this January 4th, 2020, I say to you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I will be back here at 8 o'clock. We're going to talk about fear. It's a very important topic that we must talk about. We can't, it's the part 2 of this show. This show isn't complete until we have the conversation about fear, because fear has such a strong force that it is something that you absolutely need to look in the mirror, get a handle on, and release it so that you can grow. I am Hyacinth Henderson. Find me on www.hyacinthhenderson.com, www.thehendersonfinancialgroup.com. And if you are old school and play by the old rules, give me a call at the office, 305-825-1444. I would absolutely love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to connect with you. Email me, call me. And I would say until next week, but until 8 o'clock in an hour, I'll be right back. Until then, be safe and we'll talk soon. Peace.
You've been listening to the American Cream Podcast, the #1 audio production show for people who want to achieve the American dream with cream. Love this episode of the American Cream? Head over to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. For free resources and materials, go to theamericancreampodcast.com.